let me know what you think about this. So one of the things that I predict because of so much like AI, like nowadays, like because there's so many people making AI content, information content that, and it's like all over the internet, people are going to start craving, if they haven't already, just like regular, just
Humans.
right,
Yeah,
right.
hey, I don't know about you, but there's certain voices that you already know they're AI. And it doesn't even have people. It's got pictures and all this, and you just like swipe through that. I don't even want to watch it. At first
Exactly.
I did. At first it intrigued me,
Yeah.
but now I'm like, I want a human. I want a human being, which this is gonna go a little sideways. It's gonna go a little off track. I want to share with you
There's no
this ex
track. It's all good.
this yeah, all right. This experience that I had. And take it from the oldest guy, the oldest surfer on the beach, me, right? I'm 59, I'm turning 60 this year. I'm still getting it done though, right? Keeping up with you young guys.
Trying.
But I'm gonna tell you, right? I'm gonna tell you, stud. Honestly, this one night I went surfing. And I know you're a surfer. We both are, right? I'm a paddle surfer.
Yeah,
So,
I try to be. I'm a boogie boarder, but we'll call it surfing.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you're
So,
riding a wave. Yeah.
yeah. You're on it. So this one night, this is like a perfect night. You know those nights where you get this beautiful warm breeze. Like if you're on a bicycle or a motorcycle, you get this beautiful warm breeze coming at you. You're in a t-shirt. Just one of those
Yeah.
nights. So I'm meeting my buddy up at the Hampton. We got this place called the Hamptons that we go surfing at. There's a big cement wall, and they got some really nice breaks, and a lot of surfers go there. One night, I go there, and you want to talk about some perfect rollers. They're like 3 to 5 feet, around 4 feet, right around there. But they have a lot of meat in the wave. And when they have a lot of meat, they can push a guy like forever.
What
And
do you
they're
mean?
just
What do you mean when you say a lot of meat? Like I boogie
like
board, but I never heard that term.
yeah. So the wave's like very thick and it's very powerful. So even though it's a slow roller, it's got a lot of mass to it. There's a lot of water behind it, so it can push you. It can just
Gotcha.
you can shape the wave. And so this one night, that's a great question, but there's this one night, and I've got these perfect, perfect rollers, and we're just hitting them, and we're just riding these waves over and over. Now, picture this. You've got this 4 foot wave starting way back from the shore. You hit it. Now you get into the pocket. Do you know what the pocket is? Like the lower part of the wave. They call it the pocket.
Yeah.
And you ride parallel to the beach,
Right.
if you're picturing that, right? So you could shape your board. You can go up,
Right.
down a
Waves
little.
breaking and you're in the pocket and you're riding
Yeah.
down the
And
wave.
these waves they're just pushing us. They're not even breaking till they're way close to the shore. So we're just riding these things forever. Matter of fact, I'm riding these waves parallel to the beach. I'm going almost in another zip code. That's how long I'm riding this wave. It's so thrilling and exciting. And, when you ask surfers, when you hit these perfect waves, they're just so stoked about it, right? That's what they say, stoked, thrilled, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm on my fifth wave, right? I'm on like a fourth or fifth wave. And I'm like, wow, this is kicking my ass a little bit because you get tired, right? You just get tired, but it's so much adrenaline going. It's just so exciting. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go rest for a while past the breakers. And I get past them, and I'm just kind of sitting on my board, and the sky turns pink, pink like I've never seen in my whole life, right? It turns pink, and like some pink and blue clouds, just unbelievable. And then this thing happened. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I want to share this with you, your audience, my audience, but I felt connected to every single thing. I mean everything. The water, the rocks, the animals, people, everything. All of a sudden, I had this connection that was so amazing. It was life-changing.
I want to ask you a quick question. So when you say, and I think I know what you mean because I've had experiences like this too, right? But when you say I felt connected, because we've all heard people say, I've heard a lot of people talk about feeling connected, like with nature or with this, or but like what do you mean exactly when you
Well,
say I felt
that's a
connected?
that's a great question. It's like all of a sudden you become one with everything, and everything becomes one with you. It's like you're sharing the same cellular structure of the universe. It's it's crazy. It's a crazy feeling, but it's this, I don't know, what would you say, utopia feeling like? It's just unbelievable. And I've been searching for that feeling ever since. It's amazing. It's just an amazing feeling. And that's when I say life-changing, that's when you live in a different place, a different, I don't know, plane of life, maybe. Maybe we live on different planes or something. But when I got to that plane, when I was there, and I'm telling you, I was there, not crazy. When I was there, it was a feeling that's unbelievable. And you know what? If there's any listeners out there who have shared, like share your experience with us. Let us know, did this ever happen to anyone else? Because if we could live in that reality, it would be just unbelievable for the whole world.
Oh man, dude, I've had that experience um on like separate occasions, right? On different I'd say I truly had it where I wasn't just like close to it, but like had it. Um, I would say two times. I was gonna say two to three, but that third is like I was close to it, you know.
Yeah,
Um, but it's two times, right? And um, and I love how you described it because the first time that I experienced it, my literal experience this connectedness, right? And
yeah,
that's why I like to ask you that because it's
yeah,
like for me, I used to think connected meant two separate things that are touching or that
right,
like I'm connected to my family because like they raised me and this and that. And like yeah, there's like connection points there, but that's not the kind of connected that you're talking about. You're talking about how like how my fingernail is connected to my finger because it's
right.
all me, you know, that kind of
Yeah,
connected. And
exactly.
yeah.
Great
And
explanation, Ron. And it's like you can't quite explain it, but when you're in it, when you when you're in that state, it's just so incredible.
and the other cool thing about that state is I remember like realizing that, being aware of it, and then also having the thought of like, of course it's this way. Like, how did I think that it was any other way? Like,
Right. That's such a great point, Ron, because all of a sudden you can't question it because there's no questions.
yeah, zero
It's
questions.
it's like there's no questions it's like everything is answered and there's no questions. It's the most unbelievable feeling.
I like
It's really cool.
I like to it's really hard to describe this feeling to people who haven't had it. Because the first time I had this experience, I just started going around to everybody that I know and be like, "Have you ever experienced? You feel like connected with the whole universe? Like you're the universe, and the universe is you?" And they're just like, "Oh, dude, like."
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, what is it you're smoking, man? Because you're a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, right.
You know?
And so
Uh,
and so then I like taught myself to not talk about it, you
right.
know? And
Yeah.
and this was a long time ago. This was like when YouTube first came out, and I just started YouTubing to see if other people are talking about this thing. And but I kind of developed over time a way to be able to talk about it a little bit to people who haven't experienced it yet. And when I would talk about this experience, the way that I would try to communicate it, it's like, okay, start off, just imagine God, maybe not man in the sky, whatever you think God is, right? So,
Yeah.
so first off, like start off imagining something that's impossible to imagine, right? But imagine this limitless thing with your limited mind, and it's like we're gonna start
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not
Yeah.
so good of a way to explain it, but
Uh,
um,
yeah.
so start off, just imagine God. Imagine that God is like this supercomputer, right? Um,
Creator.
right, but this is just for an analogy, right? For other people, right? A
Yeah.
supercomputer, like a quantum computer, right? Um,
Hmm.
and I am this little USB port, this like USB like flash drive, right? And for like a brief second, I got plugged in to this supercomputer. And that brief second that I was plugged in was enough to download all the data. And so that's why there were no more questions about anything. Because
Yeah.
it's like I'm like, oh, like, and I was operating with incomplete data. And that's why I
Yeah.
thought that, like there's me and then there's the waves and there's my headphones. And it's funny because even after the fact, I still forget that a lot of times.
Yeah. It's really something when you experience it, you just can't explain it. You can't believe what just happened, but there's a knowing after you've experienced that. There's just a knowing that you can't get rid of. However, you get caught up in daily routines and, all that crap, you know, running businesses and paying bills and dealing with people. But when you experience that connectedness to everything, it's life changing because you remember what that felt like. And once you remember what that felt like, it changes any negative or any unknowing feelings. You can go back to it. It's challenging, but it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and I know for me, it felt like just sounds so weird to try to say this to somebody who hasn't experienced it, but it felt like eternity. And like if the only thing that is impossible is something being impossible. Like that's the like so it's like eternity and all possibilities and also this like intense like love and connection and it's once I like had that experience, that's when all these different phrases started to make sense of like when people say that like, oh, God is love. And I'm like, well, how is God love? And I'm like, well, if this is what love is, where it's this experience of like I truly care about everything because everything is me.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
do like and that's what love is. It's like, well, that makes sense because when they say God is love, they're talking about this, you know, and I go like this with my hands because that's how I was like looking at everything like and and there's also there's also other sayings that I've seen and like read like in the Bible, but I don't remember them off the top of my head, so I'm not going to go into that. But
Hmm.
where I can see this taking effect too, where it's like it's describing like this state. Um, but something really cool though that this makes me think of is like because you did mention like you're in the state and then you go back into like daily routines and like business and life and doing
Yeah.
things and feeding the dog and like like whatever, right? You kind of like forget this state, right? Maybe it's back there in our subconscious. Actually, I can't even say maybe, like for sure it is, because I feel like if we're having that experience, that that is like our the baseline state of existence, like for everything. Like
Mm,
even the things that we look at as like, oh, they're like my vape or like this piece of paper. It's like, well, it's all part of that thing. And that thing is
yeah,
me,
yeah. And
you know?
I think like maybe even, when people experience death, right? When they're leaving their physical body, they're going somewhere else. But I think when they're facing death, I think that's where they go.
Yeah, something really interesting that you just said, just the verbiage that you used, right? They're going somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So the funny part about this is I like to try to look at things like from that state compared to our normal like waking state, right? So from that state, there is no such thing as somewhere else because somewhere else is like compared to what? You know, it's like
Yeah.
compared to like this part of me over here to like north of like this other part of me. It's like it's all like the entire universe is just there is no somewhere else. It's all just one individual organism that's like forever expanding and I like to think of it like you know how when you take a bowl of water, right? You have a let's say you have a big fish bowl and it's empty. It's just water in there. There's no rocks, no fish, none of that. So
No
it's just
goldfish,
no
nothing. Just
goldfish,
big
just the
bowl of water.
right. And then you take a spoon and you stir the water up. You stir it up a bunch. Take the spoon out. So the water's like swirling around, but you can't really see that it's swirling around. And then you get a little bottle of blue food coloring and you
Hmm.
just drop it, right? And then
Yeah.
what does that,
That's gonna follow the current. It's gonna swirl around.
right? And it's going to create a bunch of interesting patterns and formations and things happening in the water, right? And so the way that I view, so now picture that you have I think it's like 142 different colors and you're and
Okay.
you and you're dropping them in, right?
Like
And
tie dye. We're gonna have some tie dye water.
right. Well, the reason I said 142, and I might be wrong with this number, but it might be 138. It's somewhere around there. But I'm thinking of the periodic table of elements
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
that all matter, that physical matter is made of, right? So like you if you drop those dyes in, it's going to create a bunch of different combinations of swirls of different colors, making different colors and different things and shapes, and they're going to dissolve and they're going to reform and they're going to be doing all this different stuff, but it's all just in this one fishbowl. It's just the fishbowl and it's water. That's all it is. It's all this one
Okay.
thing. And and that's what if you take time out of the equation, which is a very abstract meta thing to think about. But you picture matter, like everything that the earth and everything that you've ever touched and felt is made out of. And you take time out of the equation. Like you imagine this piece of paper was once a tree that was
Hmm.
growing out of the ground. And then a logger came and cut it down and then put it into a paper mill and they chopped it up, but they made this cream stuff out of it. And then they squirted it onto this thing and then it dried. Then they cut the paper, then they put it into a printer, and then it put all these words on there. And then it got put in an envelope with another piece of paper and mailed to my house. That's the same thing as that ink being swirled around. It's like all this matter
Just
is
yeah, so you're just changing a state of being.
right, but it's still being. It's still
Yeah, because you can't kill energy, right? That's been
it's
proven.
it's still the same fishbowl. It's still this one fishbowl, right? And and so and you're right, energy can never be created or destroyed.
Yeah.
Like that's
Albert
like
Einstein? Is that Albert Einstein? I
I don't
think it
know
is.
I don't know who said it, but I know that it's like excuse me, I know it's a theorem in physics. And so I think the one thing that I want to go back to because I kind of went down a rabbit hole for a
Yeah,
little
you
bit.
did.
Um,
That's fun.
yeah, this whole topic is just one giant rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Um, and but you were mentioning being in that state and then going back into regular life, right? And kind of like
Yeah.
our regular waking state. And I'm curious, I have theories on this, but I want to see if you've thought about this, right? So what do you think is the first thing that happens to go from being in that state to like coming out of it, right? And I started asking myself this because I wanted to reverse engineer how I can get back there, right?
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's a great question. Um, I can't really answer that. I can tell you that I think your consciousness comes back into play of where you are, and then all of a sudden you're you're from floating in this great place to just now you're coming back into your body almost. It's just I don't know, but it's the greatest feeling in the world. And when you come out of it, you're you're like, what the hell just happened? But that was amazing, and I want to get back there,
Yeah,
you know? Um, and that's no drugs involved. You know what I mean?
yeah,
There's no alcohol and there's no drugs. I want to make that clear.
yeah. I think that um, the one thing that I've noticed is you're right. It's like you come back into like your body or your normal like sense of being, right? And it's like it's like these lines of separation reappear almost, you know, where it's like now I feel like I don't feel like I'm all these things. It is all me, I feel like I'm me and I end right here and you're you and there's the air and then I start using words like I and I'm referring to only me, you know, and saying
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need to go do this or like I gotta go do this now and one of the things that I think is kind of I think that that's kind of inevitable. And here's why I say this. It's because at least in this like physical world, right? Have you noticed that things can't exist without their opposite, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, exactly. Like
it's
good can't survive without evil, right?
yeah, well, it's not even that it can't survive. It can't even exist.
Right,
Like
right.
like our conscious mind, how it works is we can't perceive anything until we know what the opposite is to compare it to, right? If
Right, right. That's a great point, Ron. It's almost like, and when you're in that great state, there's no judgment on you, or you don't judge anything and nothing judges you. So that's a great point. because it's just this oneness feeling.
Right.
So
And then
now you don't see the dark or the light. You're just living.
yeah.
And it's pretty friggin' amazing.
And and so like the cool part about this is once I like kind of like went down this rabbit hole of like opposites are needed for things to exist and like seeing that all over the place. Like there's no life without death. There's no up without down. There's no hot without cold. If everything was all hot, it was all the same temperature, well, I wouldn't even know what hot is. It's just it's something that I'm not even perceiving, you know. Um, if there was a humming sound that sounded like an airplane flying by, or just like a helicopter floating above my head, and it just everything sounded like that. Like that sound is everywhere all the time, no matter what. I wouldn't even hear it because it's like
Right,
it's just a
right.
constant thing. Like so, um, and so when you take that into account, the fact that we have this experience of separateness, it's like, of course, there's this experience of total oneness. How could we have this experience of separateness without that? And before having that experience of total oneness, I didn't view my life experience like an experience of separateness. It didn't feel like that. It just felt like I'm living my life and doing this thing. And then once I experienced that, then it's like, oh, well, that's the so those are like those two experiences, they both have to exist for one of them to exist, is what I'm saying. Just like how there has to be a hot to experience a cold. And
Right.
the hardest thing for me, and I've been working on this for a while, is at first it was trying to get back to that state, and now it's more or less remembering that that state exists and living my life in this separate feeling as if I'm in that state where it's like because like to be straight up, when I was in that state, I was still in the military the first time I experienced that, and I was like, it was my day off of work, and I was like, I don't have to do anything. Like, like I could just sit here all day and like I don't show up to work, and in the military, if you don't show up to work, you get it's not getting in trouble is an understatement, right? If you just stop going, they
Yeah.
put you in jail, you know? And so like I was like I could just sit here on the floor forever. And like, what are they gonna do? Like, my boss is gonna come into my apartment and be like, "Hey, whoa, you gotta go over here and do this stuff over here." And I'll be like, and if I don't, then they're gonna move me over to this area that's I guess it's like a jail. It's this other part of me. They're gonna put me there, and it just seemed like laughable, right? So the thing is, in that state, there's no motivation, at least for me, to really do anything because I'm just like,
You're just being.
and everything is already perfect.
Yeah.
So there's no need to do anything, you know?
Right.
But then it's like, I don't think that that's what I don't, because I view this is just my personal view that I'm here on this planet in this body existing for a predetermined reason that I chose, right?
Mm.
That I, like the fishbowl I, you know, chose. And and that and I believe that that reason was not to experience just this oneness feeling all the time. Because it's like I already had that before I chose to
Yeah.
be this body doing this stuff here.
Right,
And
right. Well,
so,
yeah, it's just one of those impossible things, but having the fortunate to experience it is amazing.
yeah.
You
And so,
know, I think when babies are born, right? and before their life gets interrupted by the adults, right? Or whatever. When they're when they're first born, they don't think about anything. They don't think like, oh, I have to walk. They just try to walk.
Yeah,
They don't, they just go on about their life. And if something's like they're hungry, they're going to cry. It's not rocket science, but they're coming in from maybe another place. We don't know, but that soul, right, could be coming from another place. So they're the closest thing to the creator at that point.
right.
And then, you know, it's just like if you have two dogs and you train one to be real friendly with everyone, he's a great dog. And then some people train their dogs to be mean to everybody. Not such a great dog, right?
Right.
But humans are the same way. We're conditioned until you break the spell and say, wait a minute, I
I
want
think,
to, I want to live my own thoughts and feelings.
yeah, there's something that you shared, and I 100% agree, right? Um, but I think that there's this really cool study that you just reminded me of that I forgot about. So I think that like that point of separation where it's like I feel like me instead of like just openly existing, right? Um, I think that a lot of it shows up with like our ego. And by ego, I don't mean like I'm egotistical and I think of myself all the time, but literally like just my sense of self, right? Because that's what it is. It's like once I have this story of who I am and what I do and what I like and what I don't like, then that solidifies this separateness, right? Because this is me and this is what I like and what I don't like. And this topic is something that I like to talk about. That's a part of my identity, right? That I've given myself. And what you're talking about is like we can either have identities that are like given to us or that we've created, right? Um, like consciously. But this really cool study, um, I forgot who conducted it because I saw this in a video like years ago, back when I was YouTubing all this stuff. Um, but somebody was trying to figure out exactly like how old babies are when they develop this sense of self. Because it's like once you have this sense of self developed, that's when you start the conditioning, right? You you're either getting conditioned, all of us are getting conditioned as kids, and then we can, some of us, learn to change that. Um, but they're like,
You
well,
mean
what
like a certain age that the baby gets when they start realizing,
that they're a baby, and that because at first because I agree with you. I think the baby doesn't realize any of this stuff at first. It's just like a blank slate. It's like literally the entire universe inside of a baby,
right,
and that's
right,
it,
okay.
you know. But at
Yeah.
some point in time, that changes, and they have this sense of I, even if they don't know the
Mm.
word I, the feeling that's associated with that, they have that, you know. And and so what this study did is they took all these toddlers. I think they couldn't even talk yet, right? And what they would do is they would they would place a mirror right in front of them. And then they would like look at themselves in the mirror and they would like wave, like try to play with the other baby or whatever. And
Uh-huh.
then they would take the mirror away and then they would put a dot of paint on the baby's nose. And then they would put the mirror back in front of them. And I think it was, I can't remember exactly what age, but at some point in time when the babies were really young and they did that, the baby would automatically try to touch the paint in on their reflection. They would reach out to the mirror and be like, "Oh, like there's something on you."
Yeah, so they didn't
And
realize it
they
was
didn't
them.
realize it was them in a reflection of them. But there was like a certain age, and like I said, I can't remember what this is or who did this study, but I know if you go down a Google rabbit hole, you can find it. Um,
Yeah.
and um, and so there was like a certain age where the babies, they would put the mirror in front of them because they would keep doing the study with the same babies, as they were getting older. Like it was either once a week or once a month or something like that. And they would put the mirror in front of them, and instinctually, after the dot of paint is on their added to their nose, instead of reaching out to the mirror, to the reflection, they would instantly reach up to their nose. They wouldn't like reach to the reflection and then to their nose. They would just be like, oh, like so like at
They
this point in time, they have this fully embedded sense of self, like they know that's me, that thing is on my nose. And yeah, I just found that really interesting because I feel like that has to happen before there can even be any conditioning, you know, from an outside source or from ourselves, right?
yeah, I mean, yeah. I I think, in a loving family and all that, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, so it's pretty cool how things have happened, and I'm glad that's happened to you too, because man, it is hard to explain to people. And I've tried. I'm like, no, 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 no. You like, you know, uh, it's not because I was exhausted surfing. No, no, no. And you go through these things, and it's like, it's just this oneness, this wholeness, and you'll never forget it. And I think I've seen Jim Carrey. He's had that happen to him, maybe. But when people have experienced it, you know right away that they have, because of the way they can't explain it,
Yeah.
you know?
You know what? I've seen Jim Carrey talking about this too, but that reminded me of um one of my first like mindset coaches. He was really a business coach, but his mindset stuff um really helped me realize this because it's weird. It's like I have this experience and then it's like I forget that I even had it, after enough time goes by.
Yeah,
And
right.
or I remember I had it, but I forget what it was actually like and how empowering it really is. And so one of his mindset things was all focused around recreating this experience because it's like in that experience, it's like that anything is possible, and it doesn't have to take any time to get some result that you want. It's like the fact that you're experiencing this is just proof that any freaking thing can happen at any time, you know, and that
Yeah, yeah.
you are all powerful and can create anything because you know
Well,
that you are all the things.
you are everything. You are one with everything. So
Right.
everything is you, and you are everything.
Right. So
But
like
the
of
funny thing
course you can make anything happen.
and the amazing thing about that state, at least for me, when you're in that state, you don't want anything. You don't even care. It's
Right.
just you're just like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. And you don't even I don't even think you say this is the coolest thing ever. It's a feeling. It's not even it's just like I said, it's hard to explain.
The only thing my the only thing I wanted to do when I had that experience was laugh. And what I was laughing at, like I literally started laughing out loud, like a crazy person to anybody who like could see me. And it's because I started laughing at myself about how trivial I thought all these little things in my life were.
Hmm.
Because it's like I was like, oh, like I'm working on all these planes and these specific planes I was working on in the military, didn't like them. They were always broke for electrical stuff. And I realized like I was like, I am those planes. Like I am those planes. I'm me. Like these things that I think that I hate working on, like I made that up so I can
Yeah.
do that.
Huh.
And then I just realized like it's hilarious. It's like I'm playing a giant joke on myself and I don't even know it, you know? And
Yeah.
and it's like in that moment I finally got the joke. And so I was just like cracking up. And but that's all I wanted to do was just like laugh. And but the cool thing is that course, right, that I had gone through this mindset training I went through it, and in the very beginning, he's talking about client testimonials for people that, started making a bunch of money with their business, and and he was reading some of the testimonials that people had wrote, and he's like, some of the things were like, I see things differently like now. And so he's reading through these. He's like, yeah, I see things differently now. Like what Sam has shared has totally changed my worldview. And these are different people saying these things. And then he's like, one of them said, before I couldn't see how this was possible. Now it's so obvious. And he's reading these. And the first time that I heard him saying this stuff, I thought that they were talking about growing their business. But after he got done reading the testimonials, he's like, and he says, and it's kind of cool. Like you can kind of see like what they're pointing at, but like not really saying, but you can see what they're pointing at. And then he just goes into the training. And and so I thought they were talking about growing their business. Like, oh, I can see how all this stuff is possible. But I went through the mindset training, and this was the third experience where I was like really close, but it wasn't like fully all the way there. And I had, but I remembered in detail what it was like to have that experience. And I was kind of like another like, oh yeah, moment. Like I forgot. And then I went through and watched the mindset training again, and I saw that intro part, and I realized like this is what they're talking about.
Yeah.
This, it's not like they're like the training was engineered to give this experience because when you have this in the forefront of your mind, like of course you can get clients. Like why wouldn't you be able to, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's like this awakening.
Yeah.
But it's funny and life can be just different stages. Take it from someone who's 59, right? So from when I was 19 to 59, 40 years go by in a flash. They just do. And you're even though you're the same, you have the same mind, the same soul, and you think you can do the same things, your body wears down a little bit, right? I
Right.
hate to say that, but your body wears down a little. But your mind, your thoughts, your mind, your soul doesn't. You're still in the game. It's just a different game. And I think, you know, that being said, you take golf, right? Take anyone out there who plays golf, right? When you're thinking about the swing, just thinking about you're on the course, you're thinking about the swing, what you got to swing, you got to swing. What a mess that shot's going to be. But when you get older, or at least when I got older, right? So now I focus on the target, just the target. Where do I want this thing to go? And you'd be surprised how much better you play. It's just like life, right?
Yeah.
When you focus on the end result where you want to go or what you want to do, be it it's easier than how am I going to get there? You just
Mhm.
have to trust it. And I think that's this energy that we've tapped into, that we've experienced. I think it's a gift, but I also think it's put in your life for a reason. Like I know I'm way in New England, you're in California, we're 3,000, what is it, 3,000, 4,000 miles away, but
Something
yet
like
we've
that.
had an experience very similar. And it's just things like that that always awakens me,
Yeah.
right?
And
It's like
I'm
these,
willing I'm willing to bet just real quick that some other people are going to be watching this video and just be relieved that like somebody else has had this experience and understands what I've felt, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Well, I hope so. I hope there's other people out there because I can tell you this, right? And I'm into meditation um in the morning. Not as much, I don't do it as much as I should do it. I should do it every day. I'm trying to get that, I'm trying to do that back in my practice. But I think if there are people out there, and we're asking, right? If there's a way to teach how to get into that state, we would end all the wars that's ever been fought. And that's a fact.
Well,
Like things change, they just change when you experience it.
I I disagree.
Really?
I disagree. And here's why. Um, I respectfully disagree.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. I want to hear this.
So, I mean, there are ways. There's been people teaching ways of how to do this forever. Like most of the spiritual teachers, and I'm not talking about just religious dogma, right? And I'm not saying like don't pay attention to any religion. Like I'm not saying that at all. But most spiritual teachers, this is what they're teaching,
Right. So they
right?
they they talk, they could like we're talking, right? But if
Right.
someone hasn't experienced it, what I'm saying is if we could get people all at the same time to experience that, which is
Uh,
impossible, right?
right. So that's different because you said if there's a way to teach it, and it's like there is a way. There's like
Yeah, yeah, you're
that
right.
that
Not a
mindset
way to
coach
teach it,
that I
a
talked
way
about.
a way to feel it, a way to
Yes.
become it, right?
Yes.
Totally different language. Saying, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you had said that because there are people who teach it. There's some great teachers out there, right?
Right.
Buddha and God, all
And
kinds of people come to mind.
even more like modern day people. Like what something that I found is that almost anybody that I know that I've met in business, um, that are like people that are in the same type of business I am, right? Where it's like online and they like get these results super quickly compared to traditional business where it can take a long, long time, like decades, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
the ones that actually do, because there's some of the people that start online businesses and they don't get any results for decades too, right? Um,
Right.
but
Sure.
the ones who do end up getting those results because of this, because of this. Like they have this realization, and then they realize that they are 100% powerful in everything, and they are everything. And so, like, of course, like there can be different ones and zeros on their computer screen or leads randomly messaging them. It's like, of course, like it's all possible. And and then it starts happening, right? And but I guess what I'm trying to say is, when it comes to people teaching this, uh, and having it have that effect on like the world. So people have taught this and successfully taught it for a long time. And I've heard teachings about this stuff before I ever had this experience. And I think that, and I thought they were talking about something else. And I don't know what it is yet that gets people to hear the teaching, but also receive it, like receive
Yeah.
it and have the experience, you know?
That's a great point. And I hope people, hey, if you're out there, leave some comments. I
Yeah.
want to know. I want to know how other people have felt this.
Even if you're like, what are these guys talking about? These guys are full of shit. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
don't care. Just put it below.
Yeah. Couple of crazy guys. Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But ultimately, I'm really glad that we just like chatted about this for a while because this is the stuff that I was looking for when I had this experience. It was like 2008 and I'm like looking on YouTube and back then like the most viral video on YouTube was like an 8-hour video of a lava lamp just going, there wasn't
Yeah.
people weren't learning that much stuff on YouTube yet, like there is today. So hopefully this will be able to reach somebody who's searching like I was and
Yeah.
confirm
Yeah. Hey, you're not alone.
right confirm that you're not crazy 'cause that's what I was looking for. I was like, am I like insane now
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Like, is this a real thing? And I'm like typing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird, but cool. It's the coolest thing,
Yeah,
you know? And yeah, that's cool. But happened to me, when I was out in the ocean, what better time? And the sky turned a amazing, amazing pink, like I've never seen. Pretty, pretty, pretty cool stuff,
yeah,
pretty cool stuff. So yeah, Ron, that was cool. Cool experience, and I'm glad you felt that too. And I'm sure there's many more.
yeah. I'm positive there is. Um, so for any of you guys watching, uh, if you liked this, make sure you subscribe to Brian's channel and I don't know, like the video, do all the YouTube stuff. But anyways, hopefully
Yeah,
this was helpful and we'll see you guys soon.
right on, man.